members here today to welcome everybody for AACP Connect. Thank you for taking time out of your day to join us. I see we've got quite a few participants all the way from Alaska. I'll tell you what, I feel like I'm in Alaska. I'm dressed like I'm in Alaska. It's 54, 58 here. It's ridiculous. So that's just where I'm at. But hey, it's exciting to see you guys all around and just get to connect. So before we get too far into it, let's go ahead and let's just have a quick word of prayer and invite the Holy Spirit. Lord, thank you for technology and the ability to connect all over North America and see our friends here. And we just invite you here today into this time together, and just bless Michelle and all of our members here as we just learn a little bit more about you and how we can serve our staff. It's in your name, amen. All right, so this is going to be unlike any Zoom you've probably had this week, which is a good thing, right? So what we're going to be doing is an interactive Zoom session. Michelle has brought a lot of content to share, and she's asked that during our time here, you utilize the chat with any questions or clarifications that you might have while she's talking. And if needed, we'll stop, we can revisit something or dive a little deeper into it and just create some discussion as she's presenting. So please engage, pose questions, and let's get the discussions going. Before we dive too deep into the Connect series, I'm going to invite Craig and Wendy to present an exciting update from the AACP team.
Hey race fans, we just got done with our AACP board meeting and we voted a really cool thing, and I've asked Wendy to take a little moment and chat about it. So Wendy, take it away, bud.
Literally, it's hot off the presses. This year with COVID, everything has become challenging. So we have come up with a way to virtually recruit our summer camp staff. You're going to hear a lot more about it in the days to come. So when you get an email from Terry that says, hey, check out this virtual recruiting event, please check it out. We need all of your participation to make this thing happen. We need you to be telling all of your summer camp staff about this event. We don't have all the details laid out yet, but those details are coming, and we want to get you involved. It's going to be an exciting time to reach students all across North America to come to our summer camps and work for us.
So good job. Look forward to seeing some news from Terry and the AACP bulletins, and we'll let you know dates and all that good stuff later, but it's going to be really cool. Hope to join us. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you guys. It sounds like a good time. Hey, I'm going to invite everybody you see in the chat there. Go ahead and turn your videos on. Don't be shy. I'm a hot mess. You can be a hot mess with me. It's all good. We love everybody, right? We love you as you are. So go ahead and turn your videos on. Michelle's asking so that we can see some of you guys and do some interactions. And I've already said her name a lot, so I'm giving it away. But Bill, would you introduce our speaker, please?
Hey, I'd be happy to. About 24 years ago, I was attending don't remember what it was, a 3CA convention or ACA convention, and attended a seminar conducted by Michelle Cummings on how to use icebreakers to build team on your camp staff. And I invited her to join us at one of our first AACP conventions in Glacier View Ranch. I think maybe that was second or third convention, Glacier View Ranch. She came up and did a great job on how to train your staff using icebreakers and other team building activities. We also had her come to our convention at Cahutta here a few years ago when we did our convention there. So she's quite familiar with Seventh-day Adventists. She's got a ton of material that's going to be hard to present in 1 hour and 10, 20 minutes. I do remember that I bought what I call a bag of tricks from her. Call it I don't remember what she called it, but a great bag of tricks that I carry with me from time to time when I was doing youth events in the conference and also the union. And Michelle Cummings is the owner, trainer for Big Wheel Training Wheels. And she is a well-known sought-after speaker at conventions, and she travels the United States teaching these skills and how to train your staff virtually now. So welcome, Michelle Cummings, and good to see you again, and the time is yours.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here, you guys. So I love camp. I'm a product of camp. I went to every camp that my parents would send me to. There was one summer I went to a record, I think like 8 camps in one summer, you know, and with all different interests, whatnot. But I always went to church camp, and so I've gone from camper to camp counselor to camp director to now I'm a service provider to camps, and I'm also a camp parent. So I have 2 boys. They are 16 and 18, and and they have been going to camp, overnight residential camp, since they were 7 and 9 years old. So I love all different aspects of camp. And so today I'm excited to share with you some different strategies and things that you can do in, no matter whether you're in the virtual space or whether you're in the in-person space, for your staff training for camp this upcoming year, as well as just some things that you can think about now while you're meeting with your staff or even your other people in your churches, and just to kind of spice up some of your virtual meetings, because I've been to a lot of really bad Zoom meetings over the course of the last year as well. So I'm going to share with you a few tips and tricks on how to make things a little bit more fun, because when people are having fun, they are engaged, they are learning. And so we're going to have some fun today while we are on this session here. I'm going to put a link in the chat box right now to to one of my pages, my website, where I have lots and lots of free handouts. And so when the world went virtual last March, I started hosting some free webinars on how to lead virtual team building activities. And that led to, the very first Zoom meeting I ever hosted. I just put it out there in my newsletter and said, hey, I'm going to host one of these Zoom meetings on virtual team building activities. Here's the link, show up. I had 492 people show up to the very first Zoom meeting I had ever led before in my life. It was a little overwhelming. And so the second one, I thought, well, that went really well. Maybe I'll do it again. I had 998 people show up to the second one, 1,600 to the third one, and over 3,500 people registered for the fourth one. So they kept growing in size, and posted all of those videos on YouTube, and they've now been watched over 70,000 times. Like, it's easy how many people have now found me through this process. And really, because at my heart, I love giving away activities and ideas that people can utilize to help connect one another, whether it be connecting to your campers, to your staff, to your faith, whatever you're connecting with, to one another. Then finding experiential hands-on ways to do that, whether it be in the virtual space or the in-person space, is so important. So I'm going to share my screen and dive into a slide deck that I built out for you today. We're going to stop, we're going to play, we're going to laugh, we're going to do lots of things over the course of the next hour or so. But training wheels, I started 21 or so years ago when I couldn't find a job that I liked, so I made one up. I thought, I'm pretty good at making up games. Maybe I'll make up a job and maybe it'll work for me. And I chose the name Training Wheels for my company because I love the metaphor of the training wheel. So let's see you in gallery view here. If you change your gallery view to instead of just the film strip, there's like the little the grid, what I call the Brady Bunch view, right? You can see more of the people. I'd rather you see a lot of your friends and church family members here, and not just my screen here. But by show of hands, how many of you totally used training wheels when you were learning how to ride a bike? Let's see them. Okay, I see a handful of them up. Okay, awesome. Anybody not use training wheels? Anybody not use them? I actually didn't use them because I have 2 very ornery older brothers and a big hill next to my house. So I actually didn't use them, but I like the metaphor of the training wheel, because normally for those that are learning how to ride a bike, you only use that training wheel for a little bit till you get that courage to take that training wheel off, and then you own it, and then you try it out, right? And that's really at the core of all the work that I do is that I'm only with a group for a really short period of time, like today, and then it's up to you to take what you've learned here and own it. And you might be a little wobbly the first couple times you try out a few of these new skills, but in theory, you're going to own it. You're going to, with a little bit of practice, you're going to own it. So, all right, my chat boxes I see going off, so I'm going to make sure I have that open over here. Okay, cool. So, all right, so we are going to, today we're going to introduce simple icebreakers utilized in the virtual space. So staff training activities that you can do in person or virtually, and then also demonstrate how to use experiential activities to surface specific behaviors that you're wanting to tackle in your staff training. And then again, I put the link in the chat box to handouts. All right, cool. So this is one of my favorite quotes, and why I feel like no matter what type of meeting you're leading, whether it's a virtual or in person, you got to create connection before content. And this is one of my favorite quotes that reinforces this concept. So we must establish a personal connection with each other. Connection before content. Without relatedness, no work can occur. And that's a quote by Peter Block, who's a New York Times bestselling author. So I'm curious, when you hear that or read that, how does that resonate with you? We must establish a personal connection with each other. Connection before content. Without relatedness, no work can occur. So unmute yourself. Let's have a conversation. What do you think about that? Or use the chat box as well.
I like it. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you think about camp, when you've got kids showing up at camp, when do you really start connecting with them?
Yeah, immediately.
You started connecting immediately, but they start connecting back with you after they've started to have some experiences with you, right? That's why icebreakers and those types of things are so important, so that we create that connection before we dive into things that we want to teach them. And it's no different for your virtual meetings or even your business meetings that you have, for you to really think about, how can we do a quick icebreaker, get to know one another a little bit, let's connect, especially in a year where we have been so disconnected from one another, that it's even more important in the virtual space, in my opinion. All right, cool. So remember I mentioned the Brady Bunch gallery view? Well, I turned it into a game. So what we're gonna do is, I love this meme when it came out earlier this year. Here's Zoom circa 1969. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna ask people to put their screens in that gallery view, and then I'm gonna call out the name of one person. You're gonna unmute yourself, and you're just going to say hi to everybody. Well, your screen will illuminate when you say hi, and then everyone is just going to point to where that person is in their gallery view. Okay, because Zoom just randomly places you in everyone's gallery view, and so it'll always be in a different place. People will be pointing all kinds of different directions. So, and then once you say hello to everybody, then you can call out the name of the next person. Then you'll unmute yourself and things like that, and then we'll go to the next one. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to call out Dennison. Dennison, go ahead and unmute yourself. Say hi to everybody.
Hey, everybody. Glad to be here. And
right,
hope everyone's having a good time. I'm live in Mexico, I wish. And I know Wendy's jealous. So there you go.
Awesome. All right, Dennison, go ahead and point out the next person.
You know, I'm going to go with Dan Hansen.
All right, Dan, unmute yourself and start talking. Say hey.
Hey, good to see everybody here today. That's really funny, actually.
Right?
So I'm going to call out on Monty Murdoch.
All right, everyone point where Monty is in their screen.
Well, it's a little weird for me because I'm doing mine on the phone, so I don't have the grid.
Oh, you don't have the gallery view. Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know. So you're going to point to yourself. Hey, I'm right here.
There you go.
All right, Monty, pick one person that you know is on this call then.
Let me scroll through here. Morgan. We'll call on Morgan.
All right, where's Morgan? Morgan, can you unmute yourself?
Sorry about that. Glad to be here. It's Morgan because sometimes my husband's on here too. I'm Tess. And how about Wendy?
Welcome from Camp Yavapines. I want to pick on Ken Rogers.
Greetings and hallucinations.
Love it. All right, excellent. Thank you. Now, when you go back and watch the recording from this later, I promise you, you will not find people frowning or looking really bored during the Brady Bunch View Gallery game. Everybody is smiling and it's silly and fun, and yet it's just a way to kind of feel connected to one another. So you can also pair it with other things. So like here's an icebreaker prompt. You know, what I like to do sometimes if I just have a quick, I want to do a quick 5-minute icebreaker with groups, is I'll just create some graphics that just are some icebreaker prompts, right? So I made this one specifically for camps. So, and I have a ton of free images like this that I created early on in the pandemic that are totally free for download on our Pinterest page. And I'll put a link to the chat box to those here in just a second. But basically all you do is you just invite your participants to take turns answering the icebreaker prompts. So if I were to call out the name of somebody, I say, just pick one of those to answer. And then so you can combine it with the Brady Bunch gallery view game if you want. For large groups, you could even send them into breakout rooms for 3 to 5 minutes and have them either screenshot the questions or put a direct link to the questions as well. So let me, so if I go back here, I've got a link to this particular graphic. I just posted it. Let's see here, this one here. My slides are holding up on me. Here we go. Okay. So here is the link to that particular slide or that photo. So what I like to do is I just added them to my website. And then if I have everyone just click on that link, then if somebody, when I send them into breakout rooms, if someone just shares their screen, then they can all see that, all the questions and whatnot. And then also just a link to our, to the Training Wheels Pinterest page. Let me snag that and throw that in the chat box real quick as well. And feel free to go, that image that I just put in the chat box there, just save it right to your hard drive and then just throw it into one of your slide decks. And then there's a link to our Pinterest page where you can go find all kinds of other different activity ideas and things like that you can do in the virtual space as well. So, so that one there, I love it. And people, what I find is that people are really responsive to that one. It's fairly easy, and it's just an easy way for people to connect again in the virtual space. Now, another thing I like to do, we're going to not sit for the entire next hour. We're going to be including some movement, because how many of you at the end of the day are amazed at how exhausting it is to sit in one place and just listen all day long? Totally me. And so I also like to do things like including virtual high fives and things like that. So let's everyone go ahead and put your hands out to the sides of your screen of just your camera view like this. And then let's pretend to give everybody virtual high five. So you just do this to the person on the other screen. So right now, Bill Wood and Wendy Everhart are on either side of me. So I'm literally giving them virtual high fives right now, even though they don't know that it's me, but it's me, right? But you can also go up and down if you want to as well, and go with the people, Pastor Tracy Woods right below me and things like that. So, so again, if you want to celebrate something, or maybe you've just taught something in your staff training, and because some people will do like snaps or things like that, but the virtual high fives is another fun thing you can do in the virtual space that just helps create some connection and a little bit of movement in your presentation as well. All right, so here's another type of icebreaker prompt that you can do, is where you can, when the pandemic hit, I was like, all right, what do people have in their homes or maybe really nearby that they could possibly bring to a virtual meeting? So what I did is I created several of these playing card connection prompts that have different icebreaker or debriefing questions on them. And then either ask your participants to bring a deck of playing cards to the virtual meeting. So in this one, I would ask them to bring ace through 6. You could also show a deck of cards. There's a lot of online playing cards dealers that you could use as well. Or you could deal for them if you want. So another way that I do this is this photo right here, what you're seeing is literally to my immediate left here. And this is what you see, it's the top of my desk. And this is my iPad stand that is this contraption that lives right next to me all the time. And it fits my iPad like you see there. And so what it does then is it opens up the top of my desk for additional things that I could play with people. And when you're the Zoom host, I mean, I'm sure most of you are familiar with sharing your screen, because I'm doing that right now. And if you've had to share a slide deck in a Zoom meeting, you know how to share your screen. But you can also share a complete second device. So I'm going to show you how you can even share your iPad and how I utilize it for gameplay. I've used it in to host Bible studies, to actually show different Bible verses, things like that. Now your second device has to be on the same Wi-Fi network that your computer's on for this to work. And I personally use my camera app on my iPad. So then when I open up the camera app, it is shining down on my desktop. And then you have to select screen mirroring. Now I'm an iPad and iPhone user, so So if you're an Android person, you're gonna have to Google that and see if that works in the Zoom space. But what you do is you select screen mirroring on your device. It should select Zoom, and then you just hit share, and then voila, it's gonna connect. So I'm gonna quickly, I'm gonna show you how to do this. So this is my iPad here. Let's get it woken up here. Come on, here we go. All right, so here it is. And so now I'm going to select screen mirroring on here. And so how this works is you're gonna pull down on the upper right-hand corner, and then there's a button here that says screen mirroring. You're just gonna select that, and it is now searching for every device that I have on my network. And so you can see right there, it's now found Zoom/Michelle. So when I click on that, it's now, you're gonna start seeing what is on my iPad screen. And it takes about 8 or 9 seconds to find it. So, and when you're the Zoom host, sometimes that is a long time. So now here you're gonna see, this is my camera app. So what I'm gonna do is I am going to select the camera, and then I'm going to pop this right into my iPad stand here. And now all of a sudden I have my playing card connections activity that I just showed you. And now what I could do is I could totally shuffle the deck of cards 4. So I've got cards ace through 6 here. And now I'm like, okay, people, let's see here. So then I could pick somebody. I'm like, Craig, if you would unmute yourself and you could answer the first question. What's one thing you still want to learn? And then he could answer that question, and then he could pick the next person that is going to answer the question, and then I could turn over the next card. Name your 2 favorite holidays. And then whoever that person was could pick the next person. And then here's number 5. What are your 5 favorite foods? And then the next one, who are 4 important people in your life? So what I love about opening up my desktop is it just opens up my creativity and ideas around how I can use the top of my desk to enhance the participants' experience online. So here's, you could even do that all about me thing. There's the one that's not necessarily camp specific, but there's another one like it. Another thing that I like to do is what I call a little play on words here called Icebreakers. Now you see how this one's a little bit small. I could either zoom in if I wanted to, but I could also see how you notice down here where I have my camera set on photo. If I switch it up to video here, if I just click on that, it would actually tighten up the space quite a bit. I'm going to leave it just because it's underneath my stand and I can't quite get there. But then all I have to do, so a dice breaker, you just roll some dice, and then people could answer the different questions. There's also some online dice rollers and different things like that. This is one of my favorite questions here. If you could be a roadie for any band for a month, which band would you choose? Kind of a fun question. So, and these dice I found, these dice that I found are eraser dice, so they're a little easier on the ears than the hard dice, but again, those, you don't have to have those. Regular dice would work too. And then don't forget that any activity that you do as a icebreaker can also be done as a debrief as well. So let's say maybe you started out your meeting with a dice breaker, but then you close out your meeting with some good debriefing questions around what did they learn, what pushed you outside your comfort zone, a feeling you experienced, things like that. It's also, if you are familiar at all with different tabletop board games like Spot It, this is another great thing that I do to kind of open meetings sometimes. Spot It cards, if you've not ever seen these before, they're a deck of cards that they have 8 unique pictures on each card. And what's unique about this deck is that one picture on this card will connect with one picture on every other card in the deck. So anyone, feel free to unmute yourself and shout out what is the matching item there.
Cheese.
Cheese, excellent. All right, how about this one here? There's always one. Do you see it?
Skull.
Oh, right, excellent. Okay, what about this one?
Child.
There's
Gingerbread.
always...
Gingerman.
Say it again.
The child.
Gingerman.
The child, yeah, the gingerbread man. Yep, that one was harder, right? There you go. What is it?
Scissors.
Scissors. Good. How about this one?
Dolphin.
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 Awesome. All right, cool. So again, I like to use games like this at the very, those 5 minutes where you're waiting on everyone to show up to a meeting. But this is another reminder to put all of your devices on airplane mode when you're presenting, which clearly I did not. So I like to use games like this at the very beginning of meetings when you're waiting on everyone to show up. I also found this really cool deck of cards called Word Around cards. And Word Around cards are, they are cards that literally have different words in the different, here, let me focus in on these a little bit. All right, what's the word in the black ring of that game? You see it?
Jacket.
Jacket, excellent. Okay, what's the word in the blue ring?
Flighty.
Flighty. What's the word in the red ring?
Connecting.
Ooh,
I see a new in there. But
you see it? What is it? That was a hard one.
Innocent.
Oh, innocent. There you go. The ones that start with vowels always are really hard for me.
Innocent.
So, and they can go left or right. So that also makes it hard. So now what you do is then I turn this card over. Whatever color the back of this card is, that's the card that everyone races, the ring that you look for to find the next word. So what's the red word in that one?
Flawless.
Flawless. Excellent. All right, black ring.
Quick.
Notify.
Notify. Blue.
Goggles.
Goggles.
Nice. Very good. All right, cool. So so you get the idea, but I like showing that because it for a lot of people, they don't know you can do that. And it just really does open up a lot of cool programming options. So let's debrief that real quick, or just, you all know the different types of programs that you lead, either virtually or in person. What are some things buzzing in your brain right now? You can even use the chat box if you want to, if you can't turn your audio on for some reason or whatever. But what are some ideas you're getting already in the first 15 minutes of this presentation? This is the part where you get to talk.
I think it's just a good way to connect with people and kind of break the icebreakers, obviously. But I mean, to be able to just let them, sometimes when you come into a meeting, you come all stressed and, hurried or harried, or whatever you want to call it. But it's a good way to get them to relax and just be themselves.
Cool. All right, awesome. Screen sharing device thingy. Yeah, I love that. Love it, Pastor. So yeah, so being able to share other devices, you can even share your phone if you want to. I have a couple of apps that I use on my phone that are game apps and different dice apps, things like that. Also, if you know everybody that's coming to your meeting, you could, there's a couple of apps that I use that you can actually put photos of people on. So then the dice itself, and then literally every time you shake your phone, it changes the person, and it literally rolls the dice for you. Let me share I'll share my iPhone real quick and just show you this real quick, just so that you can see it. So let's see here. Zoom. There we go. So there's a couple of dice apps that I use for doing fun things like this. Or if you're doing family game night with your family, this is kind of an interactive way to do dice as well. So so this is those are that's my husband and my two cutie kids. But the dice apps at the very top are the ones that I use. So story dice are literally just different pictures on different dice. So I use this for creativity meetings and things like that, and have people come up with stories on the spot. They have to utilize all the different images there and make up a silly story on the spot, which can be helpful going into a creativity meeting or a planning meeting or something like that. You can also change out if you want them to be very kid-centric. You could throw in a couple Star Wars apps if you want to, and or Star Wars characters if you wanted to, and then go back here. And now I have new ones to pick from that have Star Wars, some Jabba the Hutt, some different things like that. So, so this one can be kind of a fun one to play with as well. The make dice, where you can put staff's pictures on a dice. That way, if you did like the Icebreaker app or something like that, you could have your staff pictures. You can easily add additional dice and things like that if you want to, for different story dice. You can make them with names, different things like that. And then literally every time you shake your phone, it you know, it shakes up the different dice there. So there's playing card ones. So if you wanted to do the playing card one, you could do it that way as well. So anyway, lots of different options for sharing other devices other than just your desktop, your computer. So, all right, cool. Well, I know that not all of you will be in the virtual space for your oh, there you go. There's word around. We also carry it on our website if you are curious and want to pick it up from Training Wheels as well. But all right. So for those of you that are maybe going to do in-person training with your staff this summer, one of my favorite staff training activities to do is an activity where you can customize it to fit whatever your curriculum is. Because I'm quite certain a lot of you have, all right, here's our traditional staff training that we do. And a lot of the things that you do during staff training is because you have to check specific boxes for maybe your insurance and things like that. And so you might not have a team building activity or game that goes with that, because it's literally just something that you have to kind of check off. You have to make sure that you do. And so this activity, the next one I'm going to share with you, is one of my favorites to do for staff training, because A, you can customize it on the spot, and B, it's non-prop, and it only takes about 6 or 7 minutes to do. So it's really easy to put in. So it is an activity that I call As If. Let me share this again. So so what you're going to do is so this was me at I think it was an ACA conference a couple of years ago. So it is, you're going to invite your participants to find a partner, stand 5 to 6 feet away from them, and you're going to ask them to walk forward and greet their partner as if they were, and then you're going to give them a role that you want them to play. And you're going to ask them to stay in that role for about 60 seconds. And then when time's up, you ask them to physically separate and stand about 5 to 6 feet away from one another again. So let me give you an example of this. Let's see here. I have a little video. Let me actually stop sharing. Let me go back and I hit share again. I forgot to select my share sound and optimize for video clip. Let me do that. And this video here, I think it's only 1.5 minutes in length, but it'll show you how I do this with a group here.
This next activity we're going to do is a great one that can surface whatever behavior you want, and you can link it to something that happened earlier if you want to as well. So I need you to find a partner and then stand about 5 or 6 feet away from your partner, facing them. Okay? The name of this activity is called As If. All right? So what's going to happen here in a moment is I'm going to give you a role that I would like you to play out with your partner. And you're going to walk towards your partner and greet them as if you were in this role that I'm about to give you. Okay? Now, I want you to stay in that role for about 60 seconds. And then when you hear my clicker go off, then that means that round is over. And then you will physically separate and get back into this position that you're standing in right now. For this first interaction, go ahead and greet your partner as if you were long-lost college roommates. Ready, go. Separate, stand about 6 feet away from your partner. Okay, so tell me about that interaction. What was that interaction like? It was fun. It was fun. It was lively. Was there anyone not excited to see their college roommate? right? Because some of us have those, right? We're like, you just choose not to find each other on Facebook, maybe. No, but usually this first interaction that I do with this activity, I pick something light and fun. When you're an adult group, you can use long lost college roommate, right? But if you're in a kid group, you're going to pick something that's more kid related, right? Like it's your first time seeing your best friend in school after you haven't seen them all summer, or something like that, or a long lost cousin. Now, the beauty of this activity is that it's role playing, and most people out in the world, myself included, hate role plays, right? Especially when it's the fishbowl kind of role play, when everyone's watching my acting skills and things like that. So what I love about this, it is 60 seconds worth of role playing. Everyone's doing it at the exact same time. Nobody is really watching my acting skills, and yet we're still surfacing some behaviors. This one here was surfacing, just fun and greeting and meeting people. So if you have any behavior that you need to surface in your program, do it through a little role play.
All right, cool.
This next
what I love about this is that you can then customize the roles to fit your existing training curriculum. Let's say you have to do one, you have to do something around, acknowledging or talking with parents about, maybe you run a day camp and you've got to, a camper or one of your camp counselors has to address a parent when they go to pick up and just say, hey, little Johnny had some not so great behaviors today. And now you've got to talk to a parent about some, deliver some feedback that might be hard for them to hear. Well, if you're a 21-year-old new staff person, you've never had to do that before, that might be really scary. So if you're about to go into your staff training and share, here's strategies on here's why we have to do it, things like that, let them experience it in their bones first and do this activity. Even those 60 seconds will be enough for them to go, oh my gosh, that was the longest minute of my life. Like I didn't know that would be so difficult to talk to parents that way, right? Or maybe a homesick camper. Maybe there's times where I have each one of your counselors pick, or your staff pick, whoever's going to be the one that's doing the role playing, of the addressing the homesick counselor or homesick camper, then have that camper be the age of the camper that counselor is going to work with that summer. So if you're going to work with 10-year-olds, ask that 10-year-old just however you think a homesick 10-year-old would act that way for 60 seconds, or have someone just cry for the entire 60 seconds. They're like, I've never had to deal with crying children before. And so that could be a way for them to experience, like, wow, that was a long minute. I'm like, yeah, what if they cry for 2 hours? Then what are you going to do, right? Or do you guys ever have any conflict on your staff at all? Does that ever pop up? So maybe even like having them, it's not if it happens, it's when it happens, right? Because we're all imperfect and we are going to get on each other's nerves. So what happens when you have a conflict, either a co-counselor or another staff member? And do it in a role play first. See how people naturally address conflict. Some of us are good at addressing it. Some of us are good at avoiding it. And then let's talk about, like, okay, what did that feel like? How many of you actually solved your conflict in 60 seconds? How many of you think that would happen in the real world, right? And then, but it gives them at least a little bit of an experience to work from. All right, let's chat about that one real quick. What did you think about as if, and are there any other role plays that might be good for your group to just brainstorm right here in the moment with one another? What do you think of as if? Do you like that activity? I love it. I really do. Anybody? So Dennis has got a thumbs up. You can use your reactions if you want to as well, or even use the chat box. What are some other like role plays that you think that might be good to incorporate into a staff training? One thing I like about that is that most of our frontline camp counselor staff are between the ages of 18 and 24, and most people in that age range don't have their own children yet. And so for them to be in charge of 10-year-olds all at one time, that might be really overwhelming. So for them to, incorporate some sort of activity, or like, how do you deal with with negative behavior of a camper? How do you address it? If they've never done it before, doing it through a little 60-second role play, like in the as if activity, would be really helpful for them. Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
A role play as if your staff, as if they were former campers and now they're staff members.
Yes. How do you go from camper? Do you guys do you make them wait at least 1 year before they can come as a counselor? I see some people shaking their heads no, because my kids camp, they make them wait 1 year between when they were a camper until when they can become a counselor. But some camps don't do that. So what if last year you were totally one of them and this year you're in charge of them? That is so different, right? So, or even just, all the returning staff, if you've got those staff cliques that sometimes happen, and then you've got the new people that show up, or even addressing, just inviting somebody else to your lunch table, things like that. Just, if you think you could do this with your campers as well as with your staff. So, okay, cool. We're going to dive into this next concept that I love is around exploring comfort zones. I do this with every staff training that I go to because I love that it can help people understand that just because I am comfortable with one thing doesn't mean that somebody else has the same level of comfort that I do. So in my mind, when we're creating safe environments and an optimal learning environment for our staff and our campers, we've got to keep two things in mind. We've got to keep it physically safe and we've got to keep it emotionally safe. Because when people feel emotionally safe, they are naturally driven by curiosity, which leads to exploration. We are explorers. God designed our brains and us as beings to explore and go, see, do. And when people feel emotionally and physically safe, they are more willing to take risks, whether that be an emotional risk or a physical risk, and willing to step outside their comfort zone and experience and learn something new. And so in my mind, there are 3 zones of what I call the comfort zone bullseye. The center ring is the comfort zone. Now, this is where you are comfortable, you feel safe. This is everything that you're already good at. Things that you can access these skills really easily because you've already probably stepped out of your comfort zone to learn them, but now they become very comfortable and easy and reliable for you. The stretch zone is where new learning takes place. This is when you're doing new things, allowing yourself to learn. You feel energized, engaged. You're willing to take risks because it's a little outside your comfort zone, but it's not so far out where we get into this third ring here that I call the danger zone or the panic zone. And this is where we get paralyzed by fear. We can't think straight. We're completely and utterly challenged to use our resources. Sometimes that includes our brain, right? So I'm going to
When kind of happen in your
we're going to actually, I don't have time to watch the video on this one, but I want to walk through these 3 zones. I want to show you an activity you can do in the virtual space, but then also I'll show you how you can do this in the in-person space as well. Yeah, I see Dennis had just put in the chat box offering to pray with a camper. That was probably around the as if activity. I think that's awesome. For some people, that is going to be a very easy, comfortable thing to ask. And then for other people, like, oh, that stretches me. That pushes me outside my comfort zone a lot to offer to pray with somebody. All right, so that we're going to do an activity here in the moment, and we're going to use the Zoom annotation buttons. So what I want you to do is you're going to look for this long green bar that says you're viewing Michelle Cummings' screen right now, and then click on this little down arrow. Now, if you're on a phone, it's a little harder to do this, so just know that. But if you're on a desktop or a laptop or whatever, a computer, then this is a little easier. If you're on a phone and you can access the chat box, you can use the chat box to play this one with us. So you're going to look for the annotation feature. It's going to bring up this bar right here. And we are going to use this button in particular, the text box on this next one. Okay. And you also need to know how to clear your drawings, which is the trash can button right here. Okay. So those are the 2 buttons that we're going to play with in the Zoom annotation features. All right. So here is that bullseye again. And what we're going to do is when you click on that text button, you're going to add your name somewhere on this graph that will, and you're going to place yourself, whether you're in the comfort zone, stretch zone, or danger zone on these different topics that I'm going to pop up here. So, so let's start with physical risk. How about this one here? Riding in a car without your seatbelt on. For you, would you place yourself in your comfort zone, your stretch zone, or your danger zone on that one? Go ahead and place yourself. All right, Craig's got it figured out there. Craig in the center there. Go ahead and try to locate that Zoom annotation and click on the capital letter T for your text. And then when you click on the screen with that, click on the zone that you want to put yourself in. Tracy is off the charts danger zone with the with riding in a car without your seatbelt on. If not, you might have been just playing around and figuring it out. That's why the first couple ones are totally fine to play with. So, all right, Keeper, that's his comfort zone. I see Tess here, that's her stretch zone. It's stretched her a little bit far outside of her comfort zone into the stretch zone. And Carmen is out here in the danger zone. So when I do this with my staff in particular, I will then call on one person from each one of the zones here and say, give us an example of why you have placed yourself in the comfort zone. So Keeper, I'm going to ask you, go ahead and unmute yourself. And if you don't mind sharing, what places you in the comfort zone on riding in a car without your seatbelt on?
I think that I am not afraid of getting in a car accident. And so it doesn't bother me.
Okay, all right, excellent. All right, let's hear from Tess. If you can unmute yourself, what places you in the stretch zone on this particular one? Can you unmute yourself, Tess? If you can't, it's okay. All right, how about Dennison? I know you can unmute yourself. Go ahead, Dennison. What places you in the stretch zone there?
Yeah, I'm just so used to wearing it that if I'm without it, it sometimes is okay, like at camp or in a parking lot.
Okay.
But out on a highway, it's not really good.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. And Wendy, what places you out here in danger zone / bordering stretch zone here?
Probably 2 childhood accidents when we didn't wear seatbelts.
Gotcha. Okay. Yep. All good reasons. And so what I like about this and seeing it like this too, I love to reinforce the concept that just because it's comfortable for me doesn't mean that it's comfortable for everybody else. So our perspectives can be very different. It's also great for me to know this about, specific things for, on camp property, different things like that. So here's another example, walking along the edge of a cliff. Would you place yourself in your cover zone, your stretch zone, or your danger zone? So you could have people annotate again. And if lots of people are placed in the danger zone, maybe they're not the best to put on the high ropes course, different things like that. So again, you'll see how some people in the comfort zone, other people in the danger zone. All right, I'm going to go ahead and just fast forward a little bit because I want to show you a couple of other activities. Here's another one, going to a doctor's appointment, knowing there's confirmed COVID-19 cases in your area. So you can see, you can customize these for things in the moment right now or whatnot. And maybe you might find yourself maybe in the comfort zone now, but if I were to say maybe, how would you feel about this last March or April when we didn't know very much about COVID yet, right? Where it was still so new, and has your perspective changed on it now? Some people might be in their comfort zone now, but they were in the danger zone back in March. So having conversations like this, I find so valuable because A, we're allowed to change our minds, and B, now we can have real conversations around it. All right, I'm going to clear all drawings on this one, and then I'm going to move. So those are physical risk ones. Here's some emotional risk ones. Singing a solo in front of a group of people, sharing stories about your family, facilitating virtual team building activities. You would probably find yourself in one of those 3 zones on each one of those. And again, those are more emotional risk. Some of you are like, heck yeah, I'm in the church choir. I can totally sing a solo. And then other people are like, oh, no. God gave me other gifts. The gift of song is not one of them, right? So, all right, so I wanted to just share that with you because it's so cool. Now, how I do that in the in-person space is that if you are, I have now turned that bullseye into a big giant fun tarp that I love to use because then it's so amazing what happens when you get this in a really big, large group and you get that physical distance and perspective from people. I love that. But those are also expensive and I know that. So I also created a small tabletop version to where if you've got a staff and you're sitting around, you can have people. Now, on this particular one, I had them each choose a little avatar, like, I had a little box of toys or something like that, like, and dollar store trinkets and things like that. They could choose their avatar to move around on the chart, or they could point with their finger. But you can also just like draw it on a piece of chart paper and put that on the table. Or you can just get different colored ropes and put those on the floor and have people stand on it and whatnot. So lots of different ways to actually do that activity, even if you don't have the big giant tarp. So now we've been sitting for a long time. So I also told you I was going to include movement. So here's a way to take that same concept of comfort zones and actually turn it into a movement activity. So the activity we're going to do next, oh, my computer is not happy up for a second. Hold on. Here we go. Let's go back here. So what we're going to do for this next activity is we're going to play a little game of Have You Ever? Okay. So, and what we're going to do here is all of the different questions that are going to pop up on the screen have various levels of risk. If you think that comfort zone, stretch zone, and danger zone that we just talked about, some of them will be like, oh, that's easy for me to admit. And then others are like, ooh, that stretches me a little bit. And like, oh, that one is really, it might be a little bit more risky. So what's going to happen is I'm going to start a slideshow and it's going to automatically play through for about 2 minutes. And so when you read one of the prompts, what I want you to do is just choose if to stand if that prompt applies to you. And then what I want you to do, and then just sit back down. Let's see here. I'm going to, here we go. So choose if it applies to you, stand up for a few seconds and then sit back down. And so, and then what I also encourage you to do is view this presentation in side-by-side mode, because I want you to see other people. It's way more fun if you actually watch other people standing up and sitting down. So how to do that is you are viewing Michelle Cummings' screen again, hit the view options, and then select the side-by-side mode. If you do that, then you're going to see the slides come up over here and then the gallery view over here. Then there's a little gray bar in between the slide deck and the participants view. And then you can slide that gray bar to where you can see more of the participants and a little less of my slides. And that makes it to where you can really see other people that are going to be standing up and sitting down as well. So that what we're going to do, the slides are going to pop up. If it choose to stand, if it applies for you, stand for 3 seconds, then sit back down. And then the next slide will populate. And a little metaphor I like to do right as I kick this activity off is that carabiners, those things we clip our keys to, we use on the ropes course, things like that, they are most vulnerable when they are in the open position, right? And coincidentally, so are people. So I just invite you to step into the stretch zones and be a little bit vulnerable. And I'm going to start the next slide. Feel free to roll away or back away from your camera view a little bit. So when you stand up, we don't just get belly button view of everybody. But then I'm going to start the next slide up and actually make sure that my video panel is showing so I can see some of you as well. And then when the song starts, you'll see the first slide pop up and choose to stand if it applies to you. Here we go. All right, I need squishy. Dennis is like, no. I have climbed a mountain.
Climbing up the ladder, the God knows where. Praying for a windfall to take me there. The thoughts are untied, losing my mind. I take a breath, but can't find the air. Tied to the tracks of the same routine. Bottle up the world where I used to dream. Days are all tired, clean my mind. I cut the knot, but I can't break free. Maybe I just want to live my life. just want to live my life.
I enjoy it.
Feel just one more thrill before I
love tacos. All right, where's your energy level at now compared to where it was 5 minutes ago before we played that game? Is it a little bit higher? Yeah, absolutely. And really all we did was stand up and sit down, experience a little bit of roller coaster of emotions, right? And it only took 3 minutes total to play that game. So it's a great example of ways that you can incorporate the concept of creating safe environments into the virtual space. I also do this live and in person. I've done this at keynotes where I've had 1,000 people in the audience, and it's so fun to watch people stand up and sit down and things like that. So, anyway, so kind of a really fun activity to do. So, and again, some of those prompts, you know, probably were like, oh, totally. I saw on the taco one, who is it? Maybe it was Carmen. I saw Carmen totally like throw her hands up in the air, like, I love tacos, right? So anyway, some of them super fun, and then others like, ooh, that was a little maybe risky to admit in front of my peers and things like that, right? And that was all intentional. So, okay, I now want to share with you one of my favorite staff training activities. I have a couple more that I want to make sure I squeeze in here before the end of our time together. So I'm going to skip over a couple of slides here, I think, if I can. All right, so we just did the annotation feature in Zoom. We're gonna do that same thing again, but I'm gonna show you this activity you can either do in person or here in the virtual space. And it is one that I wish was required by every organization in the world to do when they do a staff orientation or a staff training, because I feel this information should just, everybody should just do this so that people understand who they are working with, right? Because God created us all so different intentionally. We all have different behavior preferences. And sometimes my behavior preferences will totally bump up against some of your behavior preferences. So I call this activity the human continuum. And I use this card called the pocket processor when I'm live and in person. But it is my favorite activity for understanding the behavior preferences of the people that I'm going to work closely with. So, and if you do any behavioral assessments like DISC or Myers-Briggs or Trillers or anything like that, this activity works really well with those. And I use it in every staff training. So we're going to use that same text button again, text box section in the annotation feature again. Okay. All right. So what I do now, if I'm live and in person, I put a rope down the center of the room and I have everyone come and stand on my rope. Now in the virtual space, I just make slides like this, and I have everyone use their text box in the annotate section to place your name on the continuum where you think you are. First, I want you to pick which side you most think that your behavior preference is. Are you more of a careful planner over here on the left, or are you more spontaneous? And then I've got these numbers here. So we're going to pretend that all of us are standing on the center of the line here. And then once you pick a side, I want you to give it a degree. The number 1 would be I'm a little bit this. Number 2 is I'm a lot more of this. Number 3 is like, oh my goodness, I plan everything. It's so my happy place. I'm so much a careful planner that it is way over here. Same over here, a little bit spontaneous, a little bit more, oh my gosh, I've never planned anything. Like I just like all the spontaneity all the time, right? So, so let's go ahead and do this one and go ahead and use that text box feature again and place.
Michelle, where is that text box?
It is, if you see that you are viewing Michelle Cummings' screen, let me back up a slide here. Let's see here. Let me back up to the one that we did up here because that will show you exactly where it is. So it looks like, not that one. It looks like this one here. So if you you are viewing Michelle Cummings' screen, the view options and then the annotate. So if you
I think it got lost when we adjusted this setting.
Yep, there you go. And then you're gonna click on that text box, the capital letter T there, and then it should pull up your annotation feature. Okay, let me go back here.
Still can't find it.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's missing.
Do you see the long green bar? You're viewing Michelle Cummings' screen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
And then there's a little tiny view options. If you click on the arrow next to the view options, this should say annotate as one of the options. Got it? And then that text box should come up. All right, let's go ahead and do this one. Place yourself somewhere on this continuum. Are you more of a careful planner or are you more spontaneous? Go ahead and place yourself on that continuum.
I think we completely lost that.
Yeah, I think some of us not showing up.
It had to do with this when we moved our view setting, I think. I'm sure that's what happened, but okay, that might do it.
Okay, you think you're back? So you mean when you chose side-by-side mode, you think it's still in side-by-side mode? Maybe unclick side-by-side. That's never happened to me before. So this is good learning for me as well.
Actually, it works in side-by-side mode, but we lost the option. So go ahead and do share screen again and see if it gives us the option back.
Okay, there you go. Okay.
No.
How's that? Is it there?
No. Disappeared.
Oh, well, that is so bizarre. That's never happened before. Okay, well, so you can imagine once everybody, just like in the last screen, when everybody had their names all over this. For me, oh my gosh, as a camp director, I need this information in my life during staff training and not like late July when I've already placed people in different roles and different things like that, right? So who are my careful planners? Who are my more spontaneous people? All right, I'm going to advance to the next slide. Who are my self-motivated people? Who are those that are motivated by others? This is so good to know. Who needs more from me than some of my staff are going to be so good at self-motivating. Others need to hear from me a little bit more, right? But who are the people that when they show up to work every day that they want no surprises? And then who are those that welcome the unexpected? That's good to know in week 1 of camp, right? Because I tell you what, if you have the people that want no surprises in emergency response mode, really for a long period of time, they're going to hit a level of burnout way faster than those people that welcome the unexpected. They're like, bring it on, camp, bring it on, whatever, right? So, and it doesn't mean that these people that would place themselves over here can't handle that. It just means that it will stress them out if they are in that environment for a really long period of time. I express my frustrations. I keep my frustrations to myself. That's really good to know about my co-counselor that maybe I'm going to spend the next 3 months of my life with. If I'm really good at expressing my frustrations and my closest coworker is really good at keeping their frustrations to themselves, that's going to cause some conflict and some hurt feelings. And they're probably going to take up some other time from you that you may not, that maybe you could have spent that energy. If you spend some time talking about it before it happens, before it's an issue, that can be really helpful, right? All right, I avoid conflict, I confront conflict. So this just gives you an idea of a great activity that you can do, whether you're in the virtual space or in person. Just put a rope down the center and then let people physically separate out. It's the coolest. I love it. And honestly, I wish it was required by every organization. Whenever you bring new people on or whenever you're forming a new team, so that people have an idea of what the behavior preferences are of the other people that they're going to be working really closely with. Okay, let's see here. I have one other cool activity that I like to do. Let's see here, do I have it clicked on? Yes, I do. Okay, go ahead. Everyone get out a piece of paper and a writing utensil really nearby, okay? Okay, you need something to write with and just a random piece of paper. All right. So this next activity we're going to do is a little activity that I call memory test. Okay. Now, this activity here will reinforce the concept around how many instructions do you think we give kids at one time? Do you think we give them way too much information at one time too often, or do you think we're really good at just making sure that they've heard all the information? I'm going to guess it's the previous, it's the first one. So we're going to do a little activity here that might reinforce this concept, okay? So I'm going to read off the list of words, but you can't write any of these words down until I have read the entire list, okay? And then as soon as I'm done, and it'll be obvious when I'm done, I want you to write down as many words that you remember me saying, okay? All right, now remember, you can't write anything down until I'm done. All right, here we go. Dream, sleep, night, mattress, snooze, sheet, nod, tired, night, artichoke, insomnia, blanket, night, alarm, nap, snore, and pillow. You may begin. All right, are you done? Think you got them? As many as you can remember? All right, I'm going to share my screen here again. Let's see how many of these you got, okay? All right, how many of you got these two words here? Both of these two words, dream and pillow. Raise your hand if you got both dream and pillow. Okay, I see several hands going up in my gallery view. Why do you think you got those two words?
They're connected.
They're connected, dream and pillow.
Because
What else?
you said them several times.
The dream and pillow was the first, dream was the first word I said, and pillow was the last word that I said. Yeah. And so this here, if you think about the art of effective directions, when you're giving directions to kids, to staff, to whatever it is, this is a great example of have a good opener and have a good closer. People will remember the first thing you say and the last thing you say. So it's important to think about that. Or if maybe some of you on here still do sermons, or you're teaching Bible class and things like that, have the first thing you say and the last thing you say, people will remember. All right, how many of you got the word night? Why did you get, lots of you got the word night. Okay, why did you get the word night?
You repeated it.
I said it 3 times, right? So the repetition effect. So those really important things you want to make sure that people hear and remember, say them multiple times. All right, how many of you got the word artichoke? Anybody? All right, why did people get the word artichoke?
Because it was so bizarre.
Yeah, it was so bizarre and so different from all the other things, right? I call this the surprise effect, right? So, for me, a great example of this was for me when I was in the 6th grade. Now, 6th grade was a really long time ago for me, but I remember the day Mrs. Campbell, my 6th grade teacher, taught me about exclamation points. Now, Mrs. Campbell was kind of a monotone kind of teacher. I really liked her, but she didn't get too excited about much, right? Like, she was just kind of a even keel kind of a gal. And the day she taught us about exclamation points, she wrote 2 sentences up on the board. The dog bit my leg, period. And the dog bit my leg, exclamation point. So she's like, so when you see a sentence and they end in different, punctuation here, here's how you would read this one. The dog bit my leg, period. But if you read the second one, that dog bit my leg. And she jumped up and down and screamed. And it was the funniest thing I had ever seen Mrs. Campbell do in my entire life. It was such a surprise effect for me. I still remember what she was wearing. She was wearing a white shirt with red flowers. And it is so vivid still in my head because of this. So if you think about that, when you are giving directions or a sermon or a whatever it is that you're talking about, throw in something that is a little bit different. Because how many of you have kids that maybe go to other camps as well, right? And so, so if they are doing things that are kind of like other things, how many of you got this word here? How many of you got the word bed? Let's see here. How many? A couple of you? I see a couple hands going up. All right, I actually didn't say the word bed. Okay. Again, some people got the word bed. Now, why did some people write down bed?
I was just testing you.
Right, you were testing me to see if that was one of the
Association.
Right, it's guilt by association, right? It was very much like all the other things that I said. So for me, I think about those kids that have been to other camps, and maybe if they now come to your camp, they're like, oh, I know how to do this. Like, well, you probably will do it maybe a little bit different at your camp is what they've done it maybe at other camps. And so for people that are, I call it the false memory effect. If there's any kind of like gap in information of what they think, they're going to fall back on things that they already know or is like other things that they do. So just because a kid maybe does something, he may not be intentionally breaking a rule because he's just filling in the blanks with something that he learned at a different camp or something like that. So for me, I love this to do with staff. It's non-prop. It's very simple. It's 17 words is how many words that I wrote down, how many words I said there. And really for them, they're going to, for them, if they've not ever worked with kids before, this was maybe their first professional job that they've had, to have some of these, these thoughts in their head, like, okay, I have a good opener and closer and repeat myself if I need them to remember the really important things. And, and then the artichoke, the surprise effect, all those things. So anyway, so those are, I love that activity. It's one of my absolute favorites. All right, we're closing in on needing to wrap up, I know. And so, like I said, I have 3 hours of material and not near enough time to do all the things I would love to do. So I'm gonna do a quick debrief real quick. I just threw a link in the chat box to a debriefing slide that I call the body part debrief. And body parts, the body part debrief is my favorite debriefing activity to do with any type of group, kids, adults, families, whatever, because literally we carry these parts around with us everywhere we go. We could talk about the body of Christ. We could talk about all these things and how they relate, but really start thinking about with the brain, what's something new that you learned today? With the heart, what's a feeling you experienced or what did you take to heart out of this? With the hand, give a hand to somebody for a job well done. With the lungs, how was this maybe a breath of fresh air for you and getting you to think about your ministry and the way that you do virtual meetings or anything like that a little differently? And then maybe with the foot, identify a step in a new direction or something like that. So if we have lots of time, I would have each person share a response to the question, to which one of, the part of your choice. Go ahead, let's use the breakout or the chat box real quick, just so everybody gets an opportunity to share. And then we can go into some questions as well. If you were doing this with large groups, I could send you into breakout room and let you debrief with one another that way. But let's think about those things here and populate the chat box. What is something you learned? Pick one of those 5 parts there and populate the chat box with the metaphor that goes along with one of those. All right, Dennison. Brain, something you learned? You can use a second device on screen share. Awesome. Cool. Kiefer, Zoom features as well. Lungs, fun to, Teresa said, fun to be a part and got excited about Zoom again. Who knew, right? Like, right? Who knew we could get excited about Zoom again, right? Lungs, nice to see. Breath of fresh air. Nice to see new, different things to do. Pastor Tracy, I see you chose lungs, but didn't get your response in there. There it is. All right, cool. Nice to have change in meetings and activities. The brain annotation features in Zoom. Yeah, it really does. It opens up all kinds of cool things. Heart, started missing your camp staff. I love that. Looking forward to Zoom meetings with them this spring. Yeah, there really is. There's so much you really can do, even in the virtual space, in a time that is just, it's an odd time in our history, right? And hopefully it's not one that we have to stick around in for too much terribly longer. But for right now, it's where we are. So I also, here's one other fun thing that I want to show you. I thought I was done, but I'm not. I want to show you this because this is something else that you can do with your campers, with your staff right now. Because one thing that I love at camp is a good campfire, right? And it is hard to do that in the virtual space, but it is not impossible. So I call it the tiny campfire. So if you create a virtual campfire by having everyone bring a candle and their s'more making stuff, then you can like share reflections or do some songs while making and eating fun snacks, different things like that. So tiny campfire, I always have my my marshmallows, my candles, and my s'more making materials right here at the ready so that I can do tiny campfires. So isn't that fun? You could totally do s'mores even in the virtual space.
Yeah.
So. All right, let's do Q&A. What questions do you all have, or is there something else you'd like to see, or something that you saw there, like, would you show that again? Let's leave a little time for Q&A here and hit me with them. You can either throw them in the chat box or you can unmute yourself and just ask away.
I've got a question. This is Tracy. I got a question for you. I know that years past, I used to be a conference director, and we had 2 huge duffel bags that had training wheels stuff in it. We use that stuff more than anything else in our events, with whether it's Pathfinders or every conference event. We just had these 2 duffel bags, that rollerboard duffel bags, that we would haul around because we used them constantly for training. What I'm wondering now is, in the virtual world, and I know I need to go to your website and see what you have available in virtual stuff and the kind of stuff you showed us. But in my mind, I'm thinking, what can I get my hands on as resources, rather than like go and buy a bunch of stuff? What you guys offer is the descriptive, page that tells me what to do with these in all these, and with the same props in all these different ways of using them.
Exactly. Yeah. So so my website right now is currently under construction. And as soon as it rolls out live, the new one, it's going to roll out around March 1st. So in about 6 more weeks, because it's getting a Cadillac massive makeover. But what it's going to do is I'm creating a space on my website that's going to be free for people to come and bring their teams to, that I'm calling the virtual playground, to where you'll be able to come and bring kids groups to play, to play games, to ask questions. There's going to be some different icebreaker question cards that literally you select a card and it turns over, and then it'll read the card right there, and then it'll put that one at the back of the deck, and then the next one you'll click, and then it'll have a new card pop up with a new question, things like that. I have designed a gazillion virtual scavenger hunts, online virtual scavenger hunts, over the course of the last several months. And those have been really fun. I designed a camp themed one as well, that you can do with campers. I designed it intentionally that you can either do with your staff or you could do with campers as well. And that's more of it like an event that you could do pre-camp to get them talking and getting to know kids in the virtual space and things like that. So I also do have an online games database that has write-ups for over 450 different team building games and activities. There's some virtual ones there as well as in-person activities. So I also see the chat box here, Michelle from Morgan, how long do you stay on one game with staff online? That's a great question. I would say it depends on the game, but I would say, if you think of, actually, here's a good formula that I like to do on any particular concept or skill or anything that I'm teaching. There's a great book out there called Sit and Get Won't Grow Dendrites. And so it's a fantastic book written by a woman by the name of Dr. Marcia Tate. And what Marcia was able to do in her PhD research was she was able to prove you have everybody's attention 1 minute for every year they are old until we turn 16. So there's something that happens in the brain. We can literally listen to somebody and not kind of let our brains drift or whatever for 16 minutes if we're an adult. And And then at that point, after the 16-minute mark, your brain physically starts to shut down and wander and different things like that. So if you're a minister and you're a preacher, think about that in your sermons, like how long should be, things like that. But then also just if you work with 10-year-olds, you have them for about 10 minutes at a time. And also with camp staff, if you've got a lot of your staff, if they are in between the ages of 18 to 25-ish, also keep in mind that their brains are actually still developing, even though they're adults. Like the human brain doesn't fully develop until we're in our mid-20s. So for me, I like 10 to 15 minutes is kind of where I try to keep it in that sweet spot for virtual activities, just because it's engaging. And unless you've got multiple things happening in that 10 to 15 minutes, that's kind of my rule of thumb, I guess, if you will, 10 to 15. Thank you, Tracy, for putting that. It is a great book. And she probably has some YouTube videos. She's a really great speaker. I think National ACA Conference had her as a keynote probably 10, 15 years ago, because I've been referencing her work ever since. She really is pretty fantastic. So, but go find her.
Could you repeat the name of that book, Michelle?
Yes, it's called Sit and Git Won't Grow Dendrites.
Bill, I just posted it in the chat. If you click the link in the chat, it'll open up, and then you'll have it on your computer when we get done.
Oh, good. All right.
Yeah, she gives 20 different strategies on how to keep people engaged while learning. And so it's a lot of things that we teach in team building too. It's pairing and sharing. It is having them do something hands-on. It's turn to a neighbor and have a quick conversation about it, and then re-engage again. So little strategies to help people listen intently and then do something with that information, reflect, debrief, things like that. What other questions do you have?
I've got another one if nobody else does.
Go for it, Tracy.
Okay, so in my mind, I'm thinking that I'm going to run virtual camp this summer or I'm planning for both, and don't know what my options are going to be, in person or virtual. So in virtual camp, I really need some of the things that you showed us today. So as a conference or a camp director, how do I get a subscription or tap into your virtual games and activities and resources with all your resources? How do I do that? Do I get a subscription, or how are you set up? And I'm not trying to sell you. I'm just saying we got to have these resources. This is more than just hey, you showed us some cool stuff. This is our ministry.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Well, first and foremost, I would highly recommend signing up for my newsletter. I'll put a link in the chat box to do that. I send out a newsletter every Wednesday that gives tips and tricks on how to do all these things. So that's one thing you could do. The online games database, let me get that link real quick. It's not where I thought it was. Let me just go up here.
So as she's posting these, you guys be clicking them, because then you can look at them later. If you can't look at them now, they'll open up in your browser.
All right, so let me, I'm going to share my screen. This is just my website, training-wheels.com. And then here is a button that just says online games database. So again, we're going over a makeover, and this is getting a big makeover as well. But just so you know, all you would have to do is come in here. This gives a little bit of, here's some different types of activities that are in there. And then it is a subscription base, but so it's either, if you've got a lot, like if you want your entire camp to be in there, when the new site rolls out, I will say we're going to have options for less people as well. So if you have a staff of 20 people or of 50 people, so right now there's one like bulk account or institutional rate, but we'll have some options for that. But then I can even, so if you click in here, it takes you into the database. Let me just log in and I'll just show it to you real quick so you see it. Just log in. And then, so let's say if I wanted to come over here, here's all the icebreaker activities. So if I were to pick on, there's the as if activity that I showed you earlier. So here's all the directions. I've even scripted out, like how to actually say it with your groups and things like that. This is another thing that we're upgrading a lot in the new one, is that I will literally have facilitator scripts in here on like here's how to say it in front of a group when you're standing there. But here's a whole section of virtual team building activities. And again, there are all these different ways. So some of the ones that you saw today, plus a lot a lot more, and there'll be even more in here as I keep developing them as well. Energizers, problem solving activities, things like that. Now here I'll show you, here's one of those virtual scavenger hunts that I have built out. I built one specifically for camp, but you would send a group into breakout rooms to compete against one another to solve these different challenges. So this one here, you know, campfire conversation. Let's gather around the fire and get to know each other. Where are you from? What's your favorite campfire activity? Favorite sweet treat? So then they would enter in their team name here, whatever they would come up with. And then that opens up the lock when they type in their team name. And now the second lock is open. So now they have to come in here and figure out these puzzle challenges together. So unscramble each word individually, then using the letters in the red boxes, what is something that we make at camp? So they have to first figure out what all of these words are to come up with the red boxes. And then it comes up with the answer. And then they would put the answer in there, click on the key, and then it would open up if they get the answer correct. And then if they get it correct, then it opens up the next lock and whatnot. So the scavenger hunt events that I've built out usually take about 30-ish minutes or so to complete. But they have been really, really fun for people. So yeah, go ahead, Bill.
Just as we start wrapping up, could you give maybe 5 keys to having an effective debriefing session after you do an activity?
Oh, that's a great, great question. Yes, 5 keys to great debriefing is 1, give everybody a chance to reflect, right? And so whether that is, so that's why I don't do the one person talk while everybody else listen as much anymore. At least that's not the one that I start with. I usually start with, here's a question that I want you to discuss. Now turn to a neighbor and share your response to that question first. And then everybody gets a chance to answer the question. And then say, okay, everyone, pull your attention back here. Now, who would like to volunteer to either share what you said with your partner or share something cool your partner said? And so what I like about that is now everybody is getting the opportunity to debrief and not just one person talking while 10 people are listening. And so that's one thing. And then also your questions, you know, should maybe follow the format of the what, so what, now what. So what just happened? Why did we just do that? Or so what? And then the now what? How does this relate back to the real world? So that's kind of the sequence of questions that I would ask. Then also, I love using props for debriefing, like the body parts themselves, the one that we just did. I have, if you have any of the training wheels bags, I have a toy box that literally lives right here, so I can have stuff at the ready. But I have different, you know, body parts. There's a, you know, a hand, there's my heart. Give a hand to somebody, something new that I saw in myself or somebody else. And I find that sometimes when you're speaking through a metaphor, it's easier for people to connect with what that is. I actually, here, I want to show you one more thing when it comes to debriefing in my slide deck. I have this cool, where's it at? There it is. Anytime I go to do a staff training at a camp, I always make sure that every single staff person leaves with one of these. And it is this little tiny debriefing, body part debrief keychain for staff that has the tiny little body parts on it. There's a hand, a foot, a brain, a heart, and lungs. And then I throw them on this little ball chain so that they can clip it onto their carabiners, their water bottles, whatever. And they always have a debriefing tool with them at all times. And then I also give them this little tool here, which is a key ring, splitter ring, and then 3 pony beads. And I use this as a behavior management tool to help staff talk to kids about behaviors they need to stop doing, things they need to be careful of, and things they're doing really well that they need to continue doing. So those 2 tools right there, I find just really equip staff for great conversations that they need to have, debriefing, and then also for behavior management. Those 2 things there cost next to nothing. We do sell these on our online store, but and they're pretty inexpensive. So those 2 little things can really be very helpful for staff. So did I answer that question enough for you, Bill? All right, cool. All right, anything else? I know we're coming up on almost 3:30 my time, probably 5:30 for a lot of you. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for letting me be a part of your event today. I hope you got some really great new ideas. Again, feel free to sign up for my newsletter. If you go to my YouTube channel, I'll put that link in the chat box real quick as well. Then you're going to find a plethora of videos to show you how to do even more stuff that I didn't show you today. And of course, on YouTube, it's all free. So you can go watch all that stuff there. I also, if a lot of people ask if you want to pick up one of these iPad stands because they're amazing. Here's my iPad stand. The one that I got she was not cheap. She's I think she was about $100, but in my opinion, worth every penny because I can put my phone in it. I can also put my iPad in it, and it's pretty awesome. So.
Give a big hand, everybody.
All right. Well, thank you guys. God bless you and your ministry. Keep up the good work. Keep spreading his good news. I'm a big fan of his. So I love people that like spreading more information about him. Keep up that great work.
Thank you, Michelle, so much. And all of the links that we've been seeing in the chat are getting posted onto the AACP website. So if you go to adventistcamps.org, click on resources, all these links will be there. But thank you. Not only did you give us a lot of tools, I've got a ton of notes, you gave us some fun. And so that's a really, really good thing to have. So thank you again for your time and gifting us with that. Before we say goodbye, just an announcement to everybody. Remember, next week, January, what day is that? January 19th, 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, whatever time that is for you guys. We have another Connect series with Rick, and he's going to be speaking about protecting kids from a very serious topic, protecting kids from child abuse. And it's not just the director's position in doing that. It's everybody's job to be protecting our kids. And so he's had some situations, and he created this program reviewed by the Child Protection Program, reviewed by the U.S. Attorney General. So this is a really good program to have. That again is next Tuesday, January 19th at 4 o'clock. See that close out? Did you see that? You see that repetitiveness?
Hey, 3 times. That's awesome. I love it. Implementing what you learned. Excellent.
Yeah, quickly, right?
That's right.
All right. So thank you guys again. If you have just a second, everybody, high five, high five.
Virtual high fives all around. There you go. All right. Nicely done, everybody.
Okay, everyone, have a wonderful night. Thank you for joining us for AACP Connect.